Okay. Now, I think many of us know that somebody who is rather narcissistic or has a blend of behaviors, narcissism, narcissistic behaviors, histrionic behaviors, these kinds of things, they may try to, some of them, not all, none of this is all, okay, some of them may try to normalize narcissism or normalize narcissistic behaviors or histrionic behaviors, whatever it is, bad behaviors, you know, such as verbal abuse, you know, smear campaigns, whatever it is, they will try, you know, that is what they like to do. They try to make it normal, that this is the norm, that everybody does it. They love to say everybody or nobody. Well, everybody knows this, and everybody, like some will say things like, all adults cuss. That's a sign of maturity. No, it's not, and no, they don't. You know? But you see, they're trying to normalize it, that this is the norm. Or like when somebody is on a social media platform, that they might as well get used to the idea that they're going to be trolled, that people are going to say negative things. Well, that's you know, those negative things are often verbal abuse. So they're trying to normalize that. And sometimes it's very roundabout, sometimes it's very direct, the way they do it. Okay, they want to make it the norm that you shouldn't complain. And if you do, you see, they turn it around on the victim. They blame the victim. They will turn it around and say, oh, you're one of those. And they've made negative things like social justice. They call them social justice warriors with a really negative connotation. Or they call them moral police. Anything that they put a negative connotation on it, they normalize that. Put the negative connotation on it and use it quite frequently. And people have accepted, you know, they want people to accept the behaviors. If somebody complains about somebody verbally abusing them, the latest one is they're a Karen. Okay, Karen. You know, it's going to be a Karen. It's going to be, in that case, it's most often a middle-aged white woman who they call a Karen. Now, we all know there are other words than other things and other people and all that. You know, they try to normalize them, and it winds up happening. It does. People, not everybody. Remember, none of this is everybody, none of that. And I say that they will, you know, those that do, they have their you know, some people, well, I don't like to use the term flying monkeys, but yeah, they have their flying monkeys, they have their groupies, their followers, whatever it is, who will fight tooth and nail practically for them. And then that becomes just it just spreads because of the mantra mentality, the people who can't think for themselves. So they basically hear something to them sounds cute, or they just hear something and by somebody who is rather manipulative, somebody who's, let's say, rather narcissistic and knows how to con people, manipulate people. They know how to do this, and then they repeat it, and then others repeat it, and others repeat it, and you get it. Before long, it's practically a mantra, and it spreads like weeds, you know? Whew, got all that? Okay. And like I said, you know, to them, they have worked it so much, and quite often what I personally have seen on social media is often people who have that kind of a mindset that whatever they hear, they repeat. You know, they repeat it as though it's so wise, when it's just somebody who's manipulative has used that word, that term, that phrase, that kind of thought, that, you know, connotation to something, and on, and they just kind of follow, you know, the whole herd mentality kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be any side. I'm on no side myself. Oh, no, I don't need anybody to tell me how to think. But no matter what, they will say the same thing. They're not just I don't like calling people just but they are followers. And they find their guru, you know, the one that they put up way high. And And so they just continue. And like I said, these are usually very manipulative people. Okay, very. They know they're con artists, and they're scam artists too. They're this, they're that. And not in the kind of scam you might think, but sometimes it could be. But yeah, they know how to run it. Okay, and then there are people who try to fight against it. Some of them are just as bad. Okay, but there are some very little you might find in there, very few, because they're used to being ganged up on. If they try to say something like they're the moral police and they're the social justice warriors, real negative. There's nothing negative about social justice. There's nothing negative about having morals, and it's decency. Why has this become negative these days? Really? Okay, but as I said, they have learned. Some of them have learned how to work it, and to get, if anything is said that's negative toward their behaviors, then they have all these other people who have been conned into believing that this is the way. It's somebody says anything about, well, that's wrong. You shouldn't say stuff like that. You shouldn't do stuff like that. Pounce. The whole group. They don't have to. The person's doing it doesn't have to, because the whole followers, the flying monkeys, whatever you want to call them, they're there to pounce. Okay, and they're not ones to think. We can't really blame some of them, because they are just as much victims, as anybody, because they're falling for the bull. You see? They've been manipulated. But to pounce, then yeah, you can blame them. Once they pounce, yeah, that's on them. That's when they're being abusive. Okay, now, that aside, well, that as part of this, there are these people, Connie for one, a group of people in Victorson County. All the elders that will want to, they live, starting in early 2020, they moved into these farms that kind of circled the whole county, I guess you'd call it business part. Not even business, it's where the towns, it kind of circles them. And all these different farms, and they had to change the name. Well, they didn't change the names, but they separated the elders out into them, because there were a lot of threats and such. Ooh, it must have been somebody had to try to cross in front of, I can pretty much bet it. Somebody tried to cross from like where I'm turning all the way across in front of somebody. That's scary when that happens. Okay, I might be here a while going around in circles trying to find a parking spot. Man, this place is always busy, no matter what time. Fiesta store. I don't come here very often, but it is quite often busy. Unbelievable. And I think this person is just going to sit there and wait for somebody magically come out at this time. Real life happens in the middle of video now. Come on, oh, there is somebody backing out. Gave him a little tight spot there, didn't you now? To back out in. Okay now. Anyway. Now to find a place, wish me luck. I guess I should have taken that first place I thought about. Okay. Good thing y'all missed me cussing at this one woman. What she was doing. In this one, they wanted to take their half out of the middle, and they're over the line. So I'll probably be sticking out. Watch them come get out and go forward and right into my SUV. Of course, it's the closest parking spot, which is not close at all. Oh boy, you got to hear me rant a little bit. But anyway, all this, and I have this, I'm writing this I'm writing a big series. I've been doing it for years. And it helps me to make videos like this and do a rough draft, at least at the end, of that part, but the rest of it doesn't have to be necessarily part of it. But anyway, this one here, it's about these people that moved into these, these elders. Now, this is their tradition in Victorson County. It's kind of secluded from other places, and it's rather, you could say it's their tradition, or just say it's part of their culture, that the elders pretty much run the county legally. They do everything legal, but they have their own ways of doing things. And it's not the norm, but it's also not narcissistic. It really helps the people. Not only it's a very wealthy county overall for the most part, but they have they are really there for people. These are mainly good, decent people. But starting in 2020, they started to realize that they had some problems, because they locked down the county, and because there were so many problems already going on, like somebody was threatening the elders, and they were all on one ranch at the time, and some people they couldn't find who, how, and all that. And then there were other problems cropping up. So they split all the elders up in all these different ones. The ones that wanted to, they had more add to it. Some of them were living in their own home. They decided not to. They decided to become a part of it in different ranches. Huge place, lots of land. So they did all that. And some of them were former, they're retired from like law enforcement, some kind of law enforcement. And, and they could even be, military. Whatever was the case, they also moved in. But some of them decided at some point they were going to move. A lot of them they lived in different places, but a lot of them wanted to be in a certain area, a certain ranch. Okay, now these ranches used to be for dude ranches, for people who came from all kinds of places and all. They were still functioning ranches and farms and such. But when 2020, when they had the lockdown, they changed it, okay, for all these elders. And these places were big mansions on it, and they also had cabins on it, what you would think maybe a dude ranch would have, and, for outsiders. Very wealthy, okay. And they changed it to where there were, each one of these had at least one medical facility on it, and on and on, lots of detail. But this couple, they had in early 2020, they had just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. He was former, he did work as a deputy, and he also worked at the police, for the police department too, at different times. And she was a homemaker, and she didn't work outside the home, or their home. And now they each had their own interest, and he was more into true crime, and she was more into, he was a, of course, and she was into these, romance. She was into true romance. I don't know how many people may remember this, but they used to have magazines, kind of like, they were paper magazines. Okay, I'm gonna put it that way. Or were they? Yeah, they were. Years ago, called True Romance, True Confessions, True Crime, True, True whatever. And that's going to be part of it. I need to go in there and get this done. Okay, where was I? There's like an hour shopping later or somewhere around there. Yeah, and it was packed. But anyway, part of my storyline is these, like I said, different elders went to different, or did I say that? Different farms based on their interests and wherever they wanted to live. Okay, wherever they wanted to, because they were going to live there. And some of them don't live there. Some live in their own home, but many of them want that because of the protection. They're all protected, and each one of them, because of all the threats that were happening, toward the elders and others. So they're all protected, and like I said, they have their health facilities and cafeterias and such. And like this one, the cafeteria, because of so much interest in true crime and those true romances. Okay, hopefully you didn't hear that one, because there's somebody who's 3 lanes on this side, 3 lanes on this side. They're gonna have you right on my tail. Really, seriously, they're this lane, and you can go into this lane. You don't have to be in this lane. Nobody else around. Nobody. Yeah, I'm telling you. Anyway, hopefully it cut that part off. I'm filled with this today. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so see, I can't get my story out. This part of it. This married couple, they moved into one of them where there's this other woman, Connie, and this other woman, Ruth, and they're just starting to get people there. And there's a Captain Ross, he's of investigations, works with the sheriff's office, and he's one that's starting to find out more and more stuff going on, and it's very well protected because he lives there too, and that's where he's running his investigations through that. They divided all of the law enforcement. There's 3 in there, that county. They divide them all up, to do different things, just like the elders. Like some of the elders are into the counseling, some are into the radio station. The whole county has a radio station. Some are, working on investigations. Some are working on, different types of investigations, like stuff that's going on. And they only have 2 social media platforms just for the county. They have 2. That's pretty good. And each one of them, they have problems with each one, and they're going into that because it's all kind of connected. Anyway, this ranch is XYZ. No, which one is it? JKL. Yeah. They have 2 floors in this mansion. They have a top one where mainly people who work there that decided to stay there because it's all under lockdown, and they live there with their families if they choose, and but nobody can come in that hasn't been at first, until things started to change. But many of them just stayed working in there, and they have an activity director that's decided, these 2 main interests. One floor is going to be used for the true romance. One is going to be used for the true crime. An activity director works in a senior living community, but this activity director was there because of the Dude Ranch, and scheduled these activity directors. They scheduled for the people who were coming in, for the Dude Ranch experience. Well, now they're working with the elders living, and the elders could be, they had changed it to where it's like age 65 and up, and there are a few exceptions for younger than that, like if they're married or their family, someone living there. It's just different, they're kind of open-minded to it all. And, but overall it's 65 and up. And they, these activity directors, the ones who decided to stay, they switched up. They had to switch from Dude Ranch to these elders, and that's one of the things they decided to do was, let them have their true crime, and let them have, shows, they watch on the, TV in the cafeteria. One floor's cafeteria has that. The other one's, has true romance. They have different times, schedule them different times of the day and the evening for, so that people that like both can go to back and forth, and then they can sign a sheet saying if they want it exclusively for that time, and they can invite others in, but they get they get to choose what's going to be seen. They're very open to all this stuff. So it's, people start signing up, and people can change, and people, they're very friendly people overall. Okay, so this is one of the things that they started. One of them, started focusing on what was online was it really, some of them lacked morals. They started to see a lot of people were really saying things that were just unbelievable, that somebody would actually speak that in any form to where others would hear it. But overall, good, decent people, but there were the few. Okay, there were a few of them, and they didn't want that to become a norm, a social norm. Okay. Anyway, that's enough for this one for now. I'll add more to it at another, at another video at a different time. So I'll talk to you all in another video. Bye.